In the city of Lagos, mornings never waited for anyone. Before the sun rose fully, Danfo buses were already honking like angry goats. Hawkers were shouting prices into the humid air, and generators coughed awake like old men clearing their throats. Somewhere between the noise of traffic and the smell of frying akara, two homes stood only 15 minutes apart, but they lived in two different worlds. One house had marble floors, tinted windows, and a gate taller than most dreams. The other had cracked paint, a small veranda, and a zinc roof that sang loudly whenever it rained. Yet, strangely, one house was rich and empty. The other was poor and full, and only one of them truly knew where love lived. The Adeyemi mansion sat in Lekki Phase 1 like a king among houses. White walls, glass balconies, a compound big enough to park 10 cars. 3 SUVs slept quietly in the driveway like lazy lions. Inside, everything smelled expensive. Imported candles, polished wood, foreign perfume. But it did not smell like home. At exactly 6 a.m., the alarm rang in the master bedroom. Beep, beep, beep. A hand stretched out lazily and turned it off. Adesua Adeyemi sighed. She stared at the ceiling for a long moment. Beside her, her husband, Tunde, was already scrolling through his phone. No good morning, no smile, only the cold blue light of emails and stock prices reflecting on his face. "You're awake?" she asked quietly. He muttered, still taping. She waited. Maybe he would ask how she slept. Maybe he would touch her hand. Maybe he would say something kind. Nothing came. Just silence. The kind of silence that grows thick like pap. Adesua finally stood up, wrapped her silk robe around her waist, and walked to the bathroom alone. 10 years of marriage. A house full of everything money could buy. But every morning felt like she was waking up beside a stranger. In the kitchen, the housemaid, Bisi, had already prepared breakfast. Fried eggs, toast, avocado, fresh orange juice, everything perfect, everything untouched. Tunde came down first, wearing his expensive grey suit and gold wristwatch. He glanced at the table. "Where's my black coffee?" he asked. "Coming, sir," Bisi replied quickly. Adesua came down minutes later. They sat at opposite ends of the table,
everything looks perfect.
like two diplomats forced into a meeting. "Your mother called yesterday," she said carefully. "She said we should visit this weekend." "I'm busy." "You're always busy." He looked up sharply. "And what does that mean?" She swallowed. "Nothing." They ate in silence, only the clinking of cutlery. No laughter, no jokes, no stories. Just two people sharing a table, not a life.
Thank you.
If a visitor walked in,
wonderful.
they would
You're
think
welcome.
everything was perfect, but perfection can be very lonely. Across town in Surulere, life was already loud. Children were chasing a football barefoot on the dusty road. A woman was arguing with a pepper seller. Someone's radio blasted old Afrobeat. And inside a small yellow bungalow with peeling paint, laughter exploded like fireworks. "Stop it, Kunle. You'll make me late," a woman shouted, laughing. Kunle grabbed his wife from behind, spinning her around the tiny kitchen. "You said you love me. Why are you running from me now?" he teased. "Because love doesn't pay salary. It pays happiness." She smacked his chest playfully. "Foolish man." Her name was Amaka. His was Kunle. They had only 2 rooms, one tiny kitchen, one old fan that worked when it wanted. But every corner of that house felt alive. Their walls held wedding photos, church programs, and a calendar from 3 years ago they never bothered to change. The couch had a tear, covered with tape. The dining table was plastic, but the place smelled like stew and joy. Real joy. Amaka quickly wrapped her hair and tasted the soup on the stove. "Too much salt?" she asked. Kunle dipped his finger. "Tastes like heaven." She rolled her eyes. "You say that every day. Because every day you cook like an angel."
This
She
is so
laughed.
special.
"You and sweet mouth. Better sweet mouth
I
than
love
bitter
these
heart."
moments.
She paused,
too.
then smiled softly, because she knew he meant it. Kule worked as a bus conductor, Long hours, little money, too much shouting. Amaka sold fabrics in Balugu market. Some days they sold plenty, some days nothing. But every evening they returned home to each other. And that was enough. Before leaving, Kunle adjusted Amaka's bag. You didn't pack lunch, she asked. I'll buy something small. He frowned. No, wait. He opened their small pot and packed rice and stew into a container. Take. She stared at him. What about you? I'll manage. You always say that. And you are always worried too much. She touched his face gently. God bless you, Kunle. He kissed her forehead. God bless us. By 8 p.m., the Adeyemi mansion glowed beautifully under golden lights, a house so big it echoed. Adesiwa sat alone on the sofa watching TV without really seeing anything. Tunde was still not home. She checked her phone. No message, no call. This had become normal. She walked to their bedroom and opened her wardrobe full of designer clothes. Hundreds of dresses, yet none she wanted to wear. Because who was she dressing for? She sat on the bed and felt the weight of quietness pressing on her chest. Money bought comfort, but it couldn't buy conversation. It couldn't buy warmth. It couldn't buy love. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Across town, electricity suddenly went out in Surulere. Nepa! Someone screamed outside. Darkness swallowed the street. But inside the yellow bungalow, candles were already lit. Kunle and Amaka sat on the floor, sharing one plate of gari and groundnut. You know, Kunle said, one day I'll buy you a big house. Amaka laughed. For what? So we can get lost inside? I'm serious. I don't need big house. I need you. He stared at her. You sure? She nodded. As long as we're together, anywhere is fine. He pulled her close. Outside, mosquitoes buzzed. The fan was dead. Sweat clung to their skin. But they talked and laughed and dreamed. And somehow the darkness felt warm. The next Saturday morning, fate decided to play its game. Both couples ended up at the same place, a supermarket on Admiralty Way. Adesiwa pushed her trolley slowly, pitching items without interest. Behind her, Kunle and Amaka argued playfully about which noodles were cheaper. Buy the small one, Amaka said. No, family size is cheaper per gram, Kunle insisted proudly. You are your calculations. Their laughter echoed. Adesiwa turned. She watched them. How were they so happy over noodles? She couldn't remember the last time she laughed like that. Kunle accidentally bumped her trolley. Oh, sorry, madam, he said quickly. It's okay, she replied softly. Amaka smiled warmly. Sorry, ma, he doesn't know how to drive trolley. They all laughed. Just small talk, just strangers. But something strange happened. Adesiwa felt light for the first time in months. Their joy was contagious, natural, unforced. She watched them walk away still teasing each other, and a question formed quietly in her heart. Why do they look happier than me? She had everything. They had almost nothing, yet they looked richer. That night, she lay beside her sleeping husband, staring at the ceiling again. But this time, her mind was not empty. It was filled with the image of that laughing couple, holding hands, sharing noodles, smiling like life was simple. She whispered to herself in the dark, maybe money isn't where love lives. And for the first time, she wondered if she had been living in the wrong house all along. Sunday mornings in Lagos always carried two sounds at once. Church bells and generators. Prayer and survival. Hope and hustle. The city never really rested, it only changed rhythm. And on this particular Sunday, two homes woke up differently. One woke up to silence, the other woke up to singing. Adesiwa opened her eyes slowly. The other side of the bed was empty, cold. Tunde had already left. Again. She checked her phone. No message. No good morning. Nothing. She stared at the ceiling fan spinning lazily. For the first time in her life, the mansion felt like a hotel room. Temporary, emotionless, borrowed. Not home. She walked barefoot across the marble floor. Her footsteps echoed loudly. Every step reminded her how big the house was. Too big, too quiet, too lonely. She passed the dining table. 6 chairs, only 2 ever used. She passed the living room. 3 couches, nobody sat together. She passed the guest rooms, always neat, never lived in. What was the point of space when there was no closeness? She suddenly remembered something from years ago, when she and Tunde were still dating. Back when he used to wait outside her office with suya and Fanta. Back when he called her my sunshine. Back when laughter came easily. When did everything change? Was it after the first million? The first contract? The first promotion? Or when money slowly replaced time? She didn't know, but somewhere along the line, they stopped being lovers and became roommates. Later that afternoon, Tunde finally returned. Still on the phone, still serious, still distant. Yes, transfer the money, no excuses. I want the contract signed today, he backed. He walked past her like she was invisible. Something inside her cracked. Tunde, she called softly. He raised a finger. 1 minute. 10 minutes passed. She stood there like a stranger, waiting for permission to speak to her own husband. Finally, he ended the call. What is it? He asked. No warmth, just impatience. She swallowed. Can we talk? About what? Us. He sighed loudly, already irritated. Adeswa, I'm tired, not today. Then when? She asked quietly. Why are you always complaining? Don't you see I'm working for this family? She felt tears gather. But we don't even feel like a family. He looked confused, almost annoyed. What else do you want? You have cars, clothes, house, money. What is missing? She whispered, voice breaking. You. Silence. But instead of understanding, he laughed lightly. As long as money is there, everything is fine. Stop overthinking. Then he walked upstairs, just like that. The conversation ended. Her heart didn't. Meanwhile, in Surulere, Kunle, you'll be late for church, Amaka shouted. I'm coming. Music blasted from their small radio, an old gospel song. Kunle danced into the room wearing an oversized shirt. She laughed so hard she almost fell. See you're dancing. You look like a confused chicken. At least I'm a happy chicken, he replied proudly. They both burst into laughter. Their neighbor knocked. Una never ready? 2 minutes, Amaka replied. The tiny house was chaos. Clothes everywhere. Soap smell. Burnt toast smell. Life smell. But it was happy chaos, the type that makes memories. Before leaving, Kunle suddenly stopped. What? Amaka asked. He held her hands. Promise me something. What? No matter how hard life gets, don't let us stop laughing like this. She squeezed his hands. Even if we have only Gary forever, we'll laugh. Deal. Deal. They sealed it with a kiss. Simple, sincere, real. A week later, fate crossed their paths again. Adeswa's car broke down near Balogun Market. Her driver had taken the day off. Her phone battery was dying. The sun was hot. Sweat clung to her designer blouse. For the first time in years, she stood alone on the roadside. No air conditioning, no comfort, no control. She felt strangely helpless. Then she heard a familiar voice. Madam Supermarket! She turned. It was Amaka, holding fabrics on her head, smiling as usual. You remember me? Amaka asked. Adesua nodded softly. Yes, noodles. They both laughed. You look tired, Amaka said kindly. My car broke down. Ah, sorry oh. Call sit in my shop small. Sun too much. Without thinking, Adesua followed her. The shop was tiny, hot, crowded, but lively. Other traders joked loudly. Someone shared groundnuts. Someone argued about prices. Life was moving, breathing, living. Amaka handed her water. Sorry it's not cold. It's fine, Adesua said. And she meant it. For the first time in months, someone was simply kind to her. No status, no expectations, just human warmth. Kunle arrived later with food. When he saw Adesua, he smiled. Ah, Madam Trolley! They laughed again. Something about them made her relax. They offered her rice and beans. She hesitated. She had never eaten street food like this before, but her stomach growled. She ate, and strangely, it tasted better than any five-star restaurant meal because they ate together, talking, teasing, sharing stories. Nobody checked phones. Nobody rushed. Nobody pretended. Time slowed down, and something inside her heart whispered, this is what I've been missing. That night, back in the mansion, Adeswa stood before the mirror. She looked beautiful, expensive, perfect, but empty. Then she remembered Amaka's face. No makeup, sweaty, laughing, alive. Who was truly rich? She picked up her phone, called Tunde. Can we have dinner together tonight? He asked. I'm in a meeting. Tomorrow? Traveling. Her chest tightened. What about next week? We'll see. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. Always later, never now. She finally understood something painful. Love cannot survive on leftovers. It needs time, attention, presence, things money cannot buy. 2 weeks later, Tunde missed their wedding anniversary completely. No call, no gift, nothing. She sat alone at the dining table with a small cake she bought herself. 2 candles. Blowing them out alone hurt more than she expected. Tears rolled freely down. That was the moment she stopped pretending. When Tunde returned late at night, she spoke calmly. I'm tired. Of what now? He asked. Of living alone in a marriage. He rubbed his head. Please don't start drama. It's not drama, it's truth. She looked straight into his eyes. I would rather live in one small room with love than this big house without it. He froze, because for the first time, she saw she meant it. The next day, she visited Surulere again, not because her car broke down, but because her heart needed something. When she arrived, Amaka hugged her like an old friend. Kunle offered her a chair. They shared food again. They laughed again. She watched them argue about salt, then apologize, then laugh. So simple, so warm, so alive. She suddenly realized love was not hiding in luxury. It was hiding in presence, in sacrifice, in small daily kindness, in choosing each other every day. Not money, not marble floors, not status, just heart. That night, she returned home and packed away many of her expensive things, not because they were bad, but because they no longer mattered. When Tunde returned home late, she spoke calmly. I'm tired. Of what now? He asked. Of living alone in a marriage. He rubbed his head. Please don't start drama. It's not drama, it's truth. She looked straight into his eyes. I would rather live in one small room with love than this big house without it. He froze, because for the first time, she saw she meant it. The next day, she visited Surulere again, not because her car broke down, but because her heart needed something. When she arrived, Amaka hugged her like an old friend. Kunle offered her a chair. They shared food again. They laughed again. She watched them argue about salt, then apologize, then laugh. So simple, so warm, so alive. She suddenly realized love was not hiding in luxury. It was hiding in presence, in sacrifice, in small daily kindness, in choosing each other every day. Not money, not marble floors, not status, just heart. That night, she returned home and packed away many of her expensive things, not because they were bad, but because they no longer mattered. When Tunde returned home late, she spoke calmly. I'm tired. Of what now? He asked. Of living alone in a marriage. He rubbed his head. Please don't start drama. It's not drama, it's truth. She looked straight into his eyes. I would rather live in one small room with love than this big house without it. He froze, because for the first time, she saw she meant it. The next day, she visited Surulere again, not because her car broke down, but because her heart needed something. When she arrived, Amaka hugged her like an old friend. Kunle offered her a chair. They shared